Dips! People will recognise you from Chris's channel, Matt Armstrong's channel, Mark McCann, Auto Alex.
I'm so flipping loud.
I'm just little old Dips from Leicester.
There we go. That's mad.
I'm ready!
I don't think there's any vehicle that I can't get into. The Revolt.
What has been the hardest part of this journey so far?
My mental health. I hit rock bottom in 2018. I didn't have a van, I didn't have a car, I'd lost everything.
Dips!
Yes.
People will recognise you as the technician from Chris's channel, Matt Armstrong's channel, Saving Salvage, Mark McCann, Auto Alex. Literally everybody. I've even had you on the phone myself,
Yes.
figuring out problems on the vans before,
That was in the US.
and now you're sat in it.
Yeah.
So in your own words, for people that want to know a little bit more about you, they obviously see you everywhere.
Yeah.
Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so I'm Dips from P1 Autokeys. Basically, I deal with car keys, key programming, vehicle electronics, diagnostics, and any electrical challenges.
And recently, you've had
Yeah.
some absolutely insane challenges
Yes,
because
I have.
there's Revuelto just over our shoulders
Yeah.
that still isn't really moving anywhere, is there? But before we get to that, I want to know the names that I've just listed off there.
Yes.
Watching our podcast now will be mechanics, maybe some auto technicians,
Yeah.
and all-round know-it-alls.
Yes.
But they will all be wondering how you actually go about working with Matt Armstrong or ChrisFix or the YouTubers.
Yeah.
How did you get your foot in the door to this incredible world?
So this was a bit of a weird one because the first YouTuber that contacted me was ChrisFix. It was actually out of the blue. He rang me and he said, I've got a Audi TT, which is fire damaged and it's got no keys with it. So I went there, done the key and everything. And I said, look, if you don't mind, just sort of put my Instagram out there. And that was it. I didn't have YouTube or nothing at the time. And then once we did that, my phone absolutely blew up. Like, he did a really good edit on that. If anyone hasn't seen that, the TT video, make sure you go and check it out on his channel. But he did an amazing edit on that, and my phone absolutely blew up. Like, literally, I was getting probably about 30 phone calls a day just from that one video for probably about a month. I was getting that many phone calls to the point where I couldn't actually handle the amount of work coming in. And then after that, Matt rang me when he had the M5 and they thought that they'd lost the keys to it. So I said, it's not a problem. I'll come there. We'll pick the lock. We'll gain entry into the vehicle. And then hopefully the keys are inside. Keys weren't inside. He did find the keys afterwards. And then after that, I think he rang me for a couple of other jobs as well. And then Mark McCann rang me. So Mark McCann actually put a post up saying, has anybody had any of their vehicles stolen, this, that, the other. So I messaged him and said, well, I haven't had any vehicles stolen, but I deal with stolen vehicles on a daily basis because I do a lot of work for the police and stuff as well. So like for serious crimes, armed robberies and stuff like that. So I says, look, I've probably got quite a few stories that I could tell you. And if you wanted, we can show you how quickly we can gain entry into vehicles and how quickly keys can be coded. So did a video with him on that, and that went absolutely mental again. Got so many phone calls. And then I got a call from Auto Alex, top dead center. And then it just sort of escalated from that. And I've got to go and do, I've got some, I'm not saying who they are at the minute, but I've got some YouTubers in America that I'm going to be working with as well. And then it literally just went absolutely mad.
So then how much of your work now is actually working with the YouTubers? Maybe is there like a percentage of time versus kind of the other work that you do?
So I'd probably say about 30 to 40% is YouTube work now.
Wow, because there is a lot of cars being rebuilt on the internet, isn't it? And I guess there's all the up and coming channels. There's like Jesse and people like that. And when they get to the point of the electronics, everyone just goes, I have no idea what we're doing here. Like, I don't think this is something I should be having a go with myself, right?
Yeah. So it's really weird because my background is vehicle electronics. That's where I started. So I started doing, years and years ago, I was actually doing car stereos. So doing all the big max power installs and stuff like that. So we won loads of awards and all the rest of it. So that's what I predominantly started with doing. Then as that started to slow down, because cars were coming with parking sensors and they were coming with good stereos and alarms and all the rest of it, that trade started to die out a little bit. So we moved into diagnostics, and this is early days of keys having chips inside them. So moved into diagnostics, and then we realized that a lot of cars were having key problems. So we decided that this is the company that I used to work for years and years ago, and we decided that we were going to go into doing car keys. So went into doing car keys, worked for that company for about 8 years, and then decided that it was time for me to sort of move on and set up for myself. So set up in 2015. And then I just realized that I was getting so many phone calls for not only car keys, but diagnostics and electronics and stuff like that. And I thought, well, there's only so much I can do. So this is before anyone contacted me with YouTube work or anything like that. And then
it's pre-COVID.
Yeah, so pre-COVID. And then from there, it just started to escalate into the key side was so busy that it was more work than I could handle, like literally more work than I could handle. And then from there, when the YouTube stuff started to kick in, and when people see you on there, it's like, oh, actually, I need someone to fix this, or I need someone to fix that. And they've tried everywhere else. I mean, I get work from the dealers. Dealerships ring me and say, can you come and fix this? Just recently, I had a Ferrari dealership ring me for a Ferrari F430. They couldn't fix it, so I had to go there and fix that for them as well, which I found really odd because I'm just little old dips from Leicester, and I've got a Ferrari dealership in the southwest of London ringing me to come and fix their cars, and it was a bit surreal, but it's sorry, go on.
Was little old Dips from Leicester at like a young age? Was he an absolute car fanatic?
Yes, I will give you a picture of what I was like. But yeah, every time my dad had a garage, so I grew up in a garage. Basically, he was a mechanic. But I didn't like the greasy work, basically, he'd come in smelling of oil all the time and everything. But I used to love electrical stuff. So every time I'd get any toys or anything like that, I'd literally strip it down, look at the circuit boards, try and figure out what's what, and then just put it back together and see if it works. And a lot of the times it did, sometimes it didn't. And then from that, it just sort of escalated. But as far as the mechanical work goes, I've never been really into engines and stuff as much. I mean, I love it. I love the performance side and all the rest of it, but the electronic side is where I absolutely love that stuff.
So most people would have seen you working on the Revuelto. Does even that car, with the problems that you haven't quite been able to crack yet, still have like the fundamentals of that circuit board as a kid?
Yes. So, for example, talking about the Revuelto, that particular car, it's so new. The software, you've probably seen it in the videos, the software has not even been developed at the minute to clear the crash data and stuff. And as the cars get newer and newer and they become like hybrids and all the rest of it, more cars will have more modules in them than they would have done like 10 years ago. And that causes an issue because if one module fails, they all talk to each other, and that one module or that one little thing will cause the whole vehicle not to start.
So a car's becoming harder to fix.
Yes. Cars are becoming more computer-based, and it's only a matter of time before they have full-blown computers inside them. And it's already happening with the likes of Tesla and, excuse me, with other brands that have got like full electric cars and stuff. They are basically computers inside them.
So you must get work for, like, when you see like a car brand pop up that someone's contacts you about a job, you're like, oh, it's a Land Rover. They're trying to not get it, they're trying not to get it to be stolen. Or if it's a supercar, it's probably one of the boys with an obscure issue. You mentioned that 30 to 40% of your work is currently with the YouTubers. What about like outside of that? You mentioned that you're like working with the police on different projects and serious crime.
Yeah, so basically I do a lot of work for SOCO. So when vehicles get, vehicles that are involved in serious crime, vehicles will get picked up. They get taken. A lot of these vehicles will be locked when they get to the car, purely because if the vehicle's stolen or if it's been involved in anything, they'll lock the car up because they don't want police to take fingerprints. So what we do is the cars get picked up, they get taken to a recovery compound where they've got SOCO bays in them. So you've basically got to get suited up, gloved up, and then I'll basically go there, pick the lock so SOCO can take fingerprints. And I mean, some of the stuff you probably won't see that on my Instagram or anything because I can't post any pictures of that for legal reasons and stuff like that. But there's been a lot of stuff going on with that, and a lot of stuff where vehicles have been involved in armed robberies where people have been hurt. So once we gain entry into it, they'll basically check the vehicle to see if there's any evidence in there. They'll take fingerprints, any arms that are in there, like guns, knives, they'll take all that out from there.
Dips, I thought I was a busy guy.
Yeah.
But like when I see every job that you're doing online, and that's only 30 to 40% of your work, plus the fact that you told me you invoice everything yourself, you do all your own admin, and you started doing the YouTube side of things as well. Like, what does a typical day look like for you?
So in the morning, I'll get up, I'll answer any messages from the night before. And the thing is, on the messages, I get Instagram messages, WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages. I get emails, I get text messages. So basically in the morning, I'll get up, I'll respond back to all of them. And then I'll start my day by actually going out and doing the work. Or if there's any orders that I need to send off, I'll make sure I go to the post office, send them off. Then I'll do my work till probably about 6 o'clock, come home, do my invoicing. Once the invoicing's done, by that point, I've got messages throughout the day that I need to respond back to. Oh my
God.
Once that's finished, I'll get on Instagram and I'll upload any videos that I need to upload, edit and upload.
You're one of the hardest working blokes I think I've ever met.
Same with Facebook. And then once all that's done, now with the YouTube stuff starting up, I'll then spend probably till 10 till 12 o'clock at night, basically trying to edit the video.
Dips, have you ever heard the word delegation?
I know. Do you know what? So we had this conversation the other day, and you're right. I think I'm at a point now where my phone is constantly ringing. I've literally had to put it on silent because it would just be keep ringing constantly. But I think I'm at a point now where I need to take a few people on, someone to deal with the phone calls, someone to deal with the basic jobs whilst I go out and do YouTubers work and do police work. So I think there is room to sort of take someone on now. Do
you get those situations where you get a phone call from the police and a phone call from the MA unit and you're like, they both want you?
Yes.
ASAP. Like, what do you do?
So the police stuff, because it's only picking a lock, it generally takes me probably about 20 to 30 seconds to pick the lock.
That is insane.
So I'll quickly go down to the police. The police jobs take priority over everything. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing, their jobs take priority over everything. I do a lot of work for the fire brigade and the ambulance services as well. That's another thing as well. But like babies locked in cars, it happens so often. So the first thing people do is ring the fire brigade if they haven't got a spare key. Fire brigade will ring me up and say, look, can you go down and unlock the vehicle? There's a baby stuck inside. So I'll have to go. That's the two things that take priority are babies locked in cars and police work. That takes priority over everything.
And does that happen a lot?
Probably about 6-7 times a week.
You go to 6 or 7 babies locked in cars
constantly.
A week?
And pets, but yeah. And it's usually in a shopping centre car park.
And you can gain access.
Yeah.
You don't know what vehicle you're going for as well?
No. So I'll always ask them. I'll always ask what the reg, make and model, and to make sure that the door lock is okay on it, in the sense that if they've ever used it before, if they haven't, then at least I know. But yeah, there's probably, I don't think there's any vehicles that I can't get into.
Which is crazy, really, because you're clearly a good guy.
Yes.
We all know you.
Yeah.
You're one of the good guys.
I take pride in my work. I would never do anything.
But if you were a bad guy with your level of knowledge,
I'd have a Lamborghini by now.
But is that what the problem is that's growing around like the country, Europe, the world, really? Is there any vehicles that can't be stolen?
Given time, any vehicle can be taken. So, and I'm talking without damaging it. So I could go to any vehicle, be able to make a key for that car and take it, depending on time limits. We did a video with Mark McCann and showing how quickly it is to nick. How quickly we can code a key to a supercar compared to coding a key to his Renault Clio. And
it was a McLaren, right?
Yeah. So we did a Ferrari, McLaren, and Lamborghini, and his Renault Clio. And it takes longer to code the key to the Renault Clio than it does to the McLaren, Lamborghini, and Ferrari.
So when you have got car brands that are focusing on like pushing the boundaries in terms of performance on the vehicle, pushing the boundaries in terms of like tech. You've got limited drift control now on McLarens and Ferraris, and the balance is just insane. But they can't stop a car from being stolen. They can't stop a key. If they actually spent some time in this area and redeveloped the concept around it, could this problem?
No, it can't be. You can't eliminate this problem. And there's a reason for this, because thieves and criminals who are in that game are playing it's cat and mouse between the thieves and the manufacturers. And it's this whole thing that when we did the Mark McCann video, it's the same sort of thing where the minute they update the system, there's already companies out there that are trying to break that system.
That is
and these are not companies that are dodgy in any way. These are companies that are creating software for the likes of people like myself and for dealerships and stuff like that. So they have to create the software to be able to, they've got to be able to crack the software to be able to make the software so that people can make the keys. Like, for example, Range Rover recently just did an update on all of their vehicles 2018 onwards to stop people doing relay hack and stealing the vehicles. By the time Mark's video went out, I already had the updated software to be able to bypass that.
So you know the whole great big thing about Range Rover sorting out, and there's the security updates that was done, and they launched the insurance because the Land Rover brand was just doing that. And I think it's actually worth mentioning that I had, as of a month ago, a 3-litre diesel Range Rover Sport as a daily. I've now moved into a Cayenne. But out of my 3 or 4 cars, some of which are supercars, that was the most expensive to insure by 2.5 times the Lamborghini.
Crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
And you're telling me they haven't solved that problem?
So they have. They've done a software update. I went to do a 24 plate Range Rover, and it was a repossession by the finance company, and the owner who had it previously refused to give them the keys back. So they rang me up, and it was in London, and they rang me up and said, "Can you come and make us keys for it?" It's like, "Yep, not a problem." So we went there. Obviously, the minute we opened the door, the alarm goes off, and it already had all its security updates and all the rest of it. We managed to code 2 new keys to that without replacing anything on that car. And Land Rover's solution is you've got to replace the body control module and the KVM module. And we actually coded 2 new keys without replacing anything at all.
If you're listening to this episode and have your own business and need help with your digital marketing services, then I'm here to help. Just drop me a message, as I own Tweak Marketing, a leading agency specialising in technology, healthcare, automotive and many more sectors. We built websites from small individual one-man bands all the way up to huge global companies. We're here to help you take steps forward in your digital marketing. Get in touch with me via the link in the description and we'll hop on a call and see how we can help you. That's actually blown my mind a little bit.
It is pretty crazy.
So are you actually surprised that more cars don't get stolen in the UK than what it is? I know it's bad, but...
Well, put it this way. I think a lot more cars get stolen than people know. So if you look at the statistics of how many cars get stolen, there's a lot more vehicles that do get stolen that probably aren't even on that list for reasons known to themselves. Like, it might be the fact that the vehicle wasn't insured, so it's not on the database. It might be that the vehicle's been sat in a barn for like 6 months or a year or something. It might be having work done to it. Could be any old reason. I know I've had stories recently where compounds where they store hundreds and thousands of vehicles that the manufacturers have made, and they've gone to these compounds, the vehicles there are getting stolen, and they don't even know that the cars have been stolen because there's 100,000 cars on site. Do you see what I mean? So they don't, how are they to know? I mean, they get barcoded and all the rest of it, but until someone's searching for that vehicle, they're not going to know. So
with all this work though,
yes,
because to you, I mean, to the rest of the world and everything, that's absolutely horrendous. That sounds like music to your industry's ears.
A lot of people would say yes, but to me, I don't like it. I'd rather the vehicles be secure, because people will still lose keys. Keys will still fail. People will still need spare keys. There's enough work out there for everyone. Do you see what I mean? There's enough work out there for me, even if vehicles didn't get stolen.
With your level of knowledge, though, because I've experienced, in fact, you were the one that picked me out of the situation.
Yeah.
I've experienced, this was in America, going to a garage to have some electric work done that turned out just to be kind of a speaker installer.
Yeah.
And he attempted to do the entire wiring in the US studio, and we had bits of light that were blue and bits that were pink, and it was all going wrong. I had dips on FaceTime within minutes, like unpicking all the problems. Do you come up against that if you want to grow, you're going to need to bring people in? And with your set of skills that you mentioned before, those individual pieces that make you who you are, can you find those people to employ?
That's the hard part. It's having someone, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say I know everything, because far from it do I know everything. Like every single day is a learning day for me. I'm constantly learning. I'm learning new things all the time. There's things that I ask other locksmiths. There's things that I ask other auto electricians, because everyone's got knowledge on certain things. And I think if you work together, you can work better together than working against each other. So there's a lot of people in my industry that try and keep everything secret, and they don't want to tell anyone and stuff like that. And finding somebody who is on my sort of level, who have got an extensive background in electronics, is hard to find, because that person is either already employed and they're getting a very good wage, or they've opened their own business.
So is there genuinely a little bit of a shortage? Is that why the phone's going so crazy, or is it just because of the level of exposure?
I don't think there's a shortage. I think a lot of it is the exposure, because as soon as the videos go out, my phone just absolutely blows up.
But there's knowing what to do, isn't there? And then there's being a problem solver.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like, I mean, have you been a natural problem solver your whole life?
Potentially, yeah, because I love challenges. So when something doesn't work, for me, it's like, I've got to, if I can't fix it, or if I can't figure it out, I'm not sleeping that night, because it will bug me. It will really get to me. Like, for example, when we were working on ChrisFix's ECU, I attempted to code that ECU for 8 hours, and I was not going to give up. So for me, I knew the process of coding it in, but I was just like, something is stopping this from happening. So I just kept going at it, try something different, do this, do that, do this, do that. By the end of it, we got it coded, all working perfectly.
So just talk us through that in almost detail, but in a way that I could potentially understand how you solved that particular problem. Because we hear those words, coded. They can see you with a screen. They can see you plugged into the car. We know what an OBD port is and what it does. Just take us one step further, without getting into the realms of being a coder, of what it was that you had to figure out after 8 hours that allowed it to work.
So initially, when I got to the car, obviously the situation was the ECU was broken, so we were putting a new ECU in from another vehicle. So what we have to do is we basically have to unpair everything. So you have a ECU, you have a TCU, which is transmission control unit. You have the SBC, which is a security body control module, and then you have a body control module as well. What we have to do is, because we're putting another ECU to it and it's got a different VIN number on it, we have to technically unpair all of the modules so that that vehicle is no longer going to start now. Then what we have to do is we take the ECU and then we code the VIN number to that ECU. So now that ECU has got Chris's VIN number in it from his car. Then we plug it all in, and then what we have to do is we have to align all the modules back up again to let it know that it's now got a new ECU, and then the ECU will be linked to the TCU, and then the SBC and the body control module. So we have to align all that up. The issue that we were having was every time because the doors were off on the car, every time we were trying to code it in, even though the ignition was turning on, after about a minute, 2 minutes, the vehicle would go back to sleep. So the ignition would just turn off automatically. So for us to keep the ignition alive, what we've got to do is we have to connect the door wiring loom, and it has a button on the door to open the, same as yours, where you've got the button underneath, and then you can open the doors.
Because it's on a McLaren 650S.
Yeah, on the McLaren 650S. So what we had to basically do is you connect the wiring loom up, and you've got to constantly keep pressing that button so the car stays awake. So initially what was happening, and the reason why it took so long, is even though we were pressing the button, the vehicle would still continuously go back to sleep. Even if it goes sleep for like maybe 2 seconds, that shuts the process down. So we have to start the whole thing again. like unpairing everything and then repairing everything and then trying to align it. So that was constantly going off. The vehicle just kept going off. So then what we did is we checked the software on the ECU, made sure the software was okay, ran through all the modules again, and then right at the end, what I was doing is I was absolutely going ham on that button, just like constantly flicking it like I've never flicked anything before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just going ham on that button, and it aligned it. And then as soon as we turned the ignition on, she fired up.
So is that a fairly standard thing that happens?
That's
monthly?
a McLaren thing.
Okay, because you've done a lot of work on Matt's 720S as well before.
Yeah.
A lot of work, actually. In fact, you were here the other day fiddling with it.
We were just... so the other day, but basically, it just had an issue with one of the valves on the dampers, so on the suspension.
You get a lot of McLaren work from the boys.
McLarens are notorious for having issues, because your window failed at one point as well.
They're also very good at fixing themselves.
The whole thing with McLarens is the minute the battery goes even slightly down, the whole car just goes mental. Yeah,
I've noticed that. It's weird you say that. I had this the other day with it, and Toby washed it.
Yeah.
The window stopped working. The button under the door stopped working. And genuinely, we just let it dry out. Yeah. And it was absolutely fine.
So on those, particularly on them, when you wash them, the water trickles down through the glass and the door, and where the button is, the water goes onto that button, which stops it from actually working. So it's a design fault, but it is what it is.
Well, we've spoke about like security and obviously the whole problem in the UK with how many cars are being stolen. It's triggered this idea to talk to you about in my head as well, of like, how many supercars in particular are being clocked, and how many cars in general are being clocked, and with things like your car vertical tools and all the rest of it that track what the mileage was at different points. How bad is this issue?
With the supercars, it's a lot worse than people think. So,
really?
Yeah, because initially what happens is the car will come out of the factory, it will go to its first owner. The first owner is generally the guy that isn't going to clock it or anything like that, because he can afford it brand new, he can afford the depreciation, and he's just going to enjoy it for a few years, and he's going to trade it in for something else and go for another brand new car. When it goes to the second or third owner, generally what will happen is they'll put mileage blockers on them. So what will happen?
How do they do that? Is that a physical object they plug in, or is that technology that is just like
it's
uploaded
a physical object? So what the mileage blocker basically does, a lot of people ain't going to like the fact that I'm saying this, but what the mileage blocker basically does is if you've done 10 miles, it will do 2% of that. So it works on percentage. So if you've done 100 miles, it will only do 2% of that. If you've done 1,000 miles, it will only do 2% of that.
But isn't mileage stored in different places on cars?
Yes,
it's stored on the transmission, am I correct?
Yeah, it's stored on the transmission control module, on a lot of like BMWs store it on the keys. They're stored on the airbag modules.
Which is to alleviate this mileage blocker problem.
Yeah. But a lot of people, when the car goes from because it's got a mileage blocker on it, the mileage hasn't been rolled back. It's just not gone up as it should have gone up. So, for example, if the car has done 50,000 miles and it's had a mileage blocker in it, but it's only showing 25,000 miles, it doesn't matter which module they look at. They can look at the TCU because it's only done that many miles.
Right.
Do you see
so
what I mean?
It will apply that.
It will apply that to all of it. Yeah. And in some cases, I mean, some people don't bother and they'll only put it on the cluster. And in that case, it will only show up on the cluster. So if you do look at the transmission control module, it will show the original mileage.
I have a Lamborghini Huracan, as you know. I have not got a mileage blocker on it.
Yeah.
It is on 25,000 miles now, and I bought it on 5,000 miles in 2021. So I've done consistent mileage in it, and that's quite high for one of those cars.
I'm not rolling it back for you, okay?
That's because it's me. But if you had to guess, in your professional opinion, how many, say, Huracans in the UK, maybe as a percentage, that you think are using mileage blockers, what would you say?
Oh, difficult question. It's hard to say.
I'd
probably say about 30, maybe 30%, 25%.
Do you think it's that high? So two or three out of 10?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I know companies, and I'm not going to mention who these companies are because they're very established companies. And I know people that have bought cars from them. Yeah. And I mean, very established companies who have bought cars from them. And I've had to go and do a key for it, or they've had a key problem. I did a Rolls-Royce for a particular company, for a particular person, and they bought it from a very high-end company. And it was a Rolls-Royce Dawn, and they had an issue with the key. So I was going to make them a new key. So I pulled the CAS module out because it uses a BMW system, pulled the CAS module out, opened it up, and it had a mileage blocker in it.
Oh, so it was still in there?
Yeah.
They hadn't even bothered taking it out?
No, it was still in there.
And this isn't something that just goes in the OBD port?
No.
Like
it actually, so on some vehicles, it will actually, you take the cluster out and it will wire into the back of the cluster. So it's like a fly lead. So basically you unplug it, plug it into this side, the other side plugs in back into your cluster again. But this particular Rolls-Royce, they put the mileage blocker in the actual CAS module. So when I opened the CAS module to make the new key, I was like, look, it's got a mileage blocker. And I goes, if I remove this, your mileage might, because I didn't know what make it was or anything like that, that may cause an issue with the vehicle starting. It may cause an issue with the mileage going back to what the original mileage should be.
Oh, can it do that?
I don't know. So I don't deal with them.
Oh, so they may have bought what you're saying is like a 300 grand car.
Yeah. For
that. And then suddenly they take that blocker off. It would gain like 30,000 miles and they're suddenly out of pocket.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what did happen with that particular one, because I can read the mileage on the original keys. And because the key doesn't change the mileage, it would be the proper mileage on it.
So the key's the way to see if someone's done it?
On some vehicles, BMWs particularly. So on this one, I checked the mileage and he bought the car on advertised as, I think it was 25,000, and the car had done 65. So he was, when I went into the office and told him, he was pissed basically. So he rang the company up there and then in front of me, and he just went absolutely mental at them. And they were like, look, well, the only other thing we can do is you can bring the car back. We'll have to check it and see what's going on and all the rest of it. So I don't know what the outcome was with that, but he was not happy to say the least.
How much does a mileage blocker cost?
Probably about £200 maybe.
Wow. So 200 quid to save 20 grand on depreciation on value on these sorts of cars.
It's pretty crazy.
It's like 1% gains you 99%.
Yeah.
Oh, that is insane. And is that possible on like anything, even classics? Like maybe I had like a 1979.
No, because on them
there was electronics on it, but I don't know.
So on those, the cluster works on the mileage runs on a cable. So you'd open the cluster up and physically wind it back again. You'd have to go old school with that.
Now the Revolto, as we've spoke about, is obviously proving an enormous problem. Well, I say an enormous problem. It also is probably quite fun, right, to try and figure this one out. Do you feel like this is the biggest challenge of all?
Yes. So currently up to date it is for me, because Matt's had everybody look at this. He's had Nathan from VAG Coding, who's got the Lamborghini dealer tool. He's had Lamborghini come out and look at it. For me, it's more about how can we reverse engineer this? How can we reverse engineer the data that's on there and then put that back to how it should be? So I'm looking at it more from a electronics perspective, as opposed to let's just replace the ECU or replace the battery and then code it in. Because yes, that's an option, but at 35 grand, it's pretty ridiculous.
Pre the Revolto, what has been some of the most challenging YouTuber projects you've worked on?
I don't think there has been.
Really?
Yeah, I think most of them, and I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, I think most of them have just been to the person whose car it is. It might have been like, oh my god, this is what am I going to do? But for me, it's like, okay, I need to go in, I need to take this module out, read the data, add the key, or I need to take the ECU out, code it in. I think the other one's probably got to be Chris's McLaren. I mean, that's probably the longest time I spent on it. On a YouTuber's car. I mean, I went down to Top Dead Center when they first rang me for a Porsche for the 911 that they had, and basically it was hilarious. That was because I drove 2.5 hours there, and the car they could start the car, take the key back out again, and the car would stay running. So I went there, and he goes, when we press the hazard switch, that's when the car goes off. So I was like, okay. So I've gone there, tested the back of the hazard switch, pulled it out, turned it round, put it back in again, and it was done. I was there for 5 minutes and then drove straight back down to Leicester again.
Now, a 5-minute job is one type of job, but as you say, you can also be in a unit for 8 hours at night, and you're getting called to 6 different babies locked in cars a week.
Yeah.
When I saw you on the weekend on Saturday, you came down to the first food and fuel event.
That was
the Auto Alex TDC event. It was brilliant. Gertwing's there trading. We've also spent some time with you in America. You came out to SEMA, which was just absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. And you seemed to have a right laugh there.
Yeah.
How much time, fully away from work do you get? Or does this life that everybody sees encompass the whole thing?
Pretty much.
Who are you behind the scenes? What does life look like?
Behind the scenes, I like doing track days. I like to work on my own cars. So I've got an old BMW E30, which I'm building at the minute. And aside from that, I just spend time with the family, and that's about it.
What does the family look like for you?
So basically it's mum, dad, my sister, my niece and nephew, and we'll try and every Sunday we'll all try and get together and just have some food and chill out and have a laugh and stuff like that. I try not to work Sundays at all because there's got to be some time away. But saying that, once we've done all our family time in the evening, I know that by 6 o'clock, I'm back on my computer and I've got things to do and prepare for the rest of the week. And so there's always something to do.
What has been the hardest part of this journey so far?
The hardest part of this journey, now it depends on how far back you want to go, but the hardest part of this journey was probably my mental health. I hit rock bottom in probably 2018, virtually wanted to give everything up, didn't want to deal with car keys, didn't want to deal with anybody. And I basically had a company set up, which was Midlands Auto Locksmith. And I shut the company down. I was like, I'm done with this. I just don't want to do it. Not a lot of people know this. I didn't want to do it. I was at my lowest point. I'd lost everything. I didn't have a van. I didn't have a car. I was just at my absolute lowest point that you could possibly. I didn't have money. I had absolutely nothing. And then 2019, my sister deals with mental health. So she helped me out massively. She taught me how to change my mindset and my paradigms and figure out that what's really important to me. And then lockdown kicked in, and for some reason I still had my equipment, so I still had my machines and my programmers and all the rest of it, but I wasn't doing any work. I didn't have a van, and I had a little Toyota Yaris, and not a new one either. It was a Y-Reg, and lockdown kicked in, and for some reason I was getting so many phone calls for keys. Literally every single day I was getting phone calls for keys. And this is during lockdown when you're not supposed to be going out. And I was like, okay, I'll just I got a job with a company doing aerospace components, just soldering components onto circuit boards. So I'd finish there 10 o'clock at night. In the morning, wake up, and I'd just go and do a couple of jobs, key jobs. And I found myself, I think because everyone was on furlough and people were at home and they got money, people were just like, oh, actually, I need a second key doing, I need this doing, I need that doing. So they're just spending money. So I was doing all them bits, found myself getting so busy that I was like, I think I'm going to open the company again. So in 2021, September 2021, I opened P1 Autokeys. And the reason why I called it P1 Autokeys is because mentally, you've got to be in position 1. You've got to be in position 1 mentally. So I thought I'll call it P1 and also a reference to F1 as well. And I thought, right, this time I'm going to do it properly. So got myself a good accountant, figured out how I'm going to deal with calls and messages and all the rest of it. And at this point, I hadn't done any YouTube work. I wasn't even on the map.
This is like the great reset.
Yeah. It was not on the map. No one knew about me. I was just doing regular work in our local area.
How easy would it have been to have just given up and not done it again?
Very easy.
And do you think now, knowing the journey that you've had and how, you look happier than ever. Like when we see you in the videos, living and breathing it. is it amazing to almost pinch yourself now and think, if I didn't go again, none of this would be possible?
100%. I am so thankful for some close friends and family and the people around me that told me not to give up. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And when I set up P1 Autokeys and I started getting busier and busier and busier, and I was just like, this is actually working. And I managed my jobs a lot better. So I had to start saying no to people, because initially I was just saying yes to everyone and then letting people down and stuff like that. This time I was like, no, I'm just going to say no to people. If I can't do the job, if I can't make them happy in one way or another, then I'm not going to do it. So if I couldn't do the job, I'd pass them on to someone, or I'd recommend someone that can do the job for them. And then obviously all the YouTube stuff started, and then having the opportunity to come to SEMA, which I've never been to America at that point. So I was like, I can't believe I've achieved all this since 2021 of doing YouTube work, building my business up, being recognized for it. Sitting here in a podcast studio with you, to me, is just unreal.
So do you feel like your hurrah moment is just everything that led up to this year being it?
Yeah, definitely.
What is if you was to pick out a real highlight that just was a pinch me moment? Like, we all get them, like, we're working with YouTube, because sometimes jobs that we think were jobs growing up become not jobs in different ways. Like, you can be drifting around an ice lake, but for someone somehow it's financially viable and sensible. Like, have you had one of those pinch me moments that just is that big wake up point that you go, how is this real?
I've had loads of them. I've honestly had loads of them. Sitting here is a pinch me moment, because it's like, I'm just little dips from Leicester. Like, what am I doing here? Doing work for YouTubers, Matt, Chris, Mark McCann, Top Dead Center, Auto Alex, like, just them kind of things.
Who is, out of all those guys you've just listed off, the easiest to do work for?
Oh!
And who is the most challenging?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can answer that.
You get a call, your phone picks up, oh, it's so and so. Oh, they're always sat. That's so easy to do work for them. It's never a problem. It's 5 minutes. They're chill.
Okay, so the easiest has got to be the Top Dead Center boys, purely because
I can see that.
Purely because every time I go there, the job only takes like between 5 minutes to 30 minutes. Yeah, and I don't know if that's pure luck or it's just the fact that they're just picking cars that are just easy for me to work on. The most challenging has got to be obviously Matt's Revolto and Chris's McLaren, but no one's been hard to work with, if you know what I mean. Everyone's been really welcoming and everyone's been easy to work with. Like, they let me get on with my job basically. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing, is being able to go in and just being left to my vices to figure it out. And the fact that, like, if I was to go and do someone's car and they were desperate for it because it's not a YouTuber and their car's stuck on the side of a road, I know that they're going to need that car straight away. Whereas with the YouTube work, yes, they need it for the videos and all the rest of it, but sometimes it doesn't happen instantly. Like, it might be that I've worked on it for a day and I still can't figure it, so I have to go back, do a bit of research, and then come back again. And I think that everyone's been okay with that. We're about to come back.
Well, I don't think I've ever fitted so much into under an hour. Like, you've been absolutely fantastic, and I don't think I've been this fascinated for a while in hearing so much stuff. And I think for people listening, it will give them a fantastic insight to the world of working with the YouTubers, how you've been able to do it, and some context into a face that's becoming more familiar on all of our screens. And not to mention, you've just started you've started pushing your YouTube channel. A video on Chris's cars now on like 90k views. It's going to go straight over 100.
It blew my mind when that happened, honestly. And I rang you to speak to you, saying that I've just been accepted on the YouTube partner program. What do I do next? And
Dips is monetized now, people. And I have told him, and it's worthwhile everybody knowing that's maybe listening to this, because the right person could be sat there that could find themselves in the seat opposite too one day.
Yeah.
But Dips needs someone. You're hardworking. You're a cameraman. You understand editing. Like, Dips needs someone. I'm telling him that now because he's the next big channel that's about to blow up. Because I think the work that you do is fascinating and you're just an all-round great guy. So
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me on Road to Success. Make sure you go and subscribe to Dips' channel. Make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe to Road to Success if you're listening on Spotify and Apple. Thank you very much. And we will catch you in an upcoming episode soon.
Thank you for having me on.
Cheers.
Appreciate you.
Smashed it.